and a lone sports bike fishtailing through a wall of rain at 90 miles an hour. Then darkness swallowed everything again, and the only light left was the bike's single headlamp, cutting a tunnel through the storm. The rider leaned so low his chest nearly scraped the fuel tank. Water streamed off the brim of his black cowboy hat, the felt heavy as lead. Strapped to his torso with 2 bungee cords and a torn leather belt was a makeshift carrier. 2 babies, no more than 6 months old, swaddled in soaked receiving blankets. Their faces were pressed against his soaked t-shirt, tiny fists clutching the fabric like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Every time the bike hit a pothole, the infants jolted, but the rider's left arm never left them. His right hand stayed white-knuckled on the throttle. Behind him, 2 black Ford Raptors roared in formation, high beams strobing through the rain. The lead truck fishtailed, tires hydroplaning, then corrected with a snarl of turbochargers. A rifle barrel poked from the passenger window. Muzzle flash. A round sparked off the bike's rear fender, showering orange sparks into the night. The rider didn't flinch. He just dropped a gear, the engine screaming into redline, and shot forward like a bullet. Almost there, he rasped, voice raw from wind and blood. A gash above his left eye poured crimson into his beard, mixing with the rain until his whole face looked painted for war. His breaths came in short, painful bursts. One of the babies started crying, a thin, desperate wail that cut straight through the thunder. The rider's jaw clenched. "I hear you, little man. Just hold tight." Another crack of lightning. This time the flash revealed the road ahead. A narrow 2-lane strip flanked by red rock cliffs on one side and a sheer drop into blackness on the other. The sign for the Desert Rose Motel flickered ahead. Neon letters half burned out, spelling only Rose in sickly pink. The rider aimed for it like it was salvation. The second truck tried to box him in, edging alongside. The driver leaned out, rain whipping his face, and screamed something lost to the wind. The rider's eyes, hidden beneath the hat brim, flicked to the side mirror. He saw the glint of a pistol. Time slowed. He killed the headlight. Darkness exploded around them. The truck's high beam swept empty air as the bike vanished into the storm's black heart. Engines howled in confusion. Tires screeched. Then the rider snapped the light back on, 30 feet ahead and closing fast on the motel's gravel lot. He downshifted hard, rear tire locking, and slid the bike sideways in a perfect 180. Gravel sprayed like buckshot. The bike stopped inches from the motel office door. The rider killed the engine. Silence rushed in, broken only by rain drumming on tin roofs and the soft whimper of the babies. He staggered off the seat, knees buckling. Blood dripped from his fingertips onto the wet gravel, each drop swallowed instantly by the storm. Inside the office, a single fluorescent tube buzzed over an empty counter. A bell sat untouched. The rider leaned against the doorframe, chest heaving, and looked down at the 2 tiny faces staring up at him. One baby had stopped crying. The other still hiccuped, eyes wide with terror. "Shh," he whispered, voice cracking. "You're safe now." But as the first Raptor's headlights swept across the lot, painting the walls blood red, the rider's hand dropped to the Colt Python holstered under his jacket. His knuckles were split, his vision swimming. He could barely draw breath. The truck skidded to a halt, doors flying open. Boots hit gravel. 4 men fanned out, weapons raised. The rider straightened, cowboy hat dripping, and stepped into the light. Who was this ghost in the storm, and why were these babies worth dying for? The answer was 24 hours behind him, and closing fast. The sun hung like a molten coin above Red Rock, New Mexico, turning the horizon into a shimmering ribbon of heat. heat, the town sat in a bowl of rust-colored earth, ringed by mesas that looked carved by giants. Main Street was one long strip of cracked asphalt flanked by sun-bleached storefronts, a feed store with a faded Coors mural, a pawn shop advertising guns, gold, guitars, and the rusty Spur Diner, its chrome siding flashing like a signal mirror. A single traffic light blinked yellow over an intersection nobody ever stopped for. A low, predatory growl rolled in from the east. Heads turned. A black Yamaha R1 crested the hill, hugging the center line like it owned the road. The bike was matte murder black. No decals, no chrome, just function and menace. It downshifted with a snarl, tires chirping as it banked into the diner lot. Dust plumed behind it, catching the light like gold smoke. The Ryder killed the engine, and the silence felt sudden, almost disrespectful. He swung a leg over the seat with the slow certainty of a man who'd done it 10,000 times. 6'2", maybe 6'3", broad through the shoulders and narrow at the hip. Faded black t-shirt clung to him, damp with road sweat. A leather jacket hung open, revealing a silver chain with a single .357 casing swinging against his chest. Scuffed boots hit gravel. The cowboy hat, black Stetson, sweat-stained band, brim curled just right, stayed low, shadowing eyes the color of winter steel. Inside the diner, conversation dipped. The jukebox clicked over to Waylon Jennings, volume low enough to hear the ice machine hum. Locals knew the look. Drifter, trouble, or both. The waitress, Sarah, paused mid-pour, coffee pot trembling. A toddler at the counter stared wide-eyed. Even the fry cook peeked. Through the pass-through, spatula frozen. Jake Harlan, though nobody here knew the name yet, pushed through the glass door. The bell gave a tired jingle. He moved like a man carrying invisible weight, boots thudding soft on cracked linoleum. Every eye tracked him to the counter's far end, where he took the last stool, back to the wall, eyes on the door. Habit. "Coffee, black, keep it coming," he said, voice low, West Texas drawl wrapped in gravel. Sarah nodded too fast, nearly sloshing the pot. She set a chipped mug in front of him and refilled it before he'd taken the first sip. Steam curled between them like a question. Outside, cicadas buzzed in the mesquite. A dusty Peterbilt rumbled past, air brakes hissing. Jake's gaze drifted to the window, watching heat devils dance above the highway. He rolled the mug between calloused palms, thumbs tracing old scars. One shaped like a crescent moon, another a perfect circle from a cigarette long ago. The bullet casing on his chain caught the light when he breathed. Sarah hovered. "You, passing through?" Jake's eyes flicked up. For a second, the room felt smaller. "Road don't end, ma'am, just changes direction." She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes and retreated to wipe a spotless counter. Behind her, the bassinet rocked gently. 2 infants slept inside, tiny chests rising and falling under faded quilts. One had a shock of dark hair, the other a wisp of blonde. Sarah glanced at them every 10 seconds like a nervous bird. Jake noticed. He noticed everything. The way the sheriff's cruiser idled across the street a beat too long. The way the cook's knuckles whitened on the spatula when the door opened again. 5 bikers in Desert Viper's cuts rolled in slow, Harleys backfiring like gunshots. They killed engines in a perfect line, boots stomping dust off denim. The leader, Vance, filled the doorway, gold tooth glinting, eyes scanning until they landed on Sarah, then on the babies. The air in the diner thickened. Waylon sang about luck and ladies. Jake took a slow sip of coffee, set the mug down exactly where it had been, and turned the stool a 1/4 inch. Better angled to the room, his right hand rested easy on his thigh, inches from the Colt Python riding appendix under the jacket. Nobody spoke. Outside, a tumbleweed bounced past the pumps. The traffic light kept blinking yellow, indifferent. Jake's voice cut the silence, soft as a knife sliding from leather. "Storm's coming. Sarah looked up, confused. Forecast said clear. Jake's gaze drifted to the horizon where bruise-colored clouds stacked like artillery. Not that kind. And in that moment, every soul in the rusty spur understood. The ghost had ridden into town, and whatever hell followed him was already on the scent. The jukebox clicked to silence, needle lifting like it knew better than to play. During what came next, the only sounds left were the low growl of idling Harleys outside, the hiss of the grill, and Sarah's breathing, too fast, too shallow. The bell above the door hadn't even finished its chime when Vance filled the frame, shoulders brushing both sides. He wore a Desert Viper's cut over a stained wife-beater, gold tooth flashing when he grinned. The grin never reached his eyes. "Sarah," he said, dragging the name out like a threat, "we need to talk." Behind him, 4 more Vipers filed in, boots thudding in practiced rhythm. One locked the door. Another flipped the open sign to closed. The click of the deadbolt sounded louder than a gunshot. Locals stared into their coffee, into their plates, anywhere but forward. A gray-haired trucker in the corner reached for his wallet, slid a 20 under his plate, and eased toward the restroom like a man tiptoeing past a rattlesnake. Vance didn't notice. His eyes were on the bassinet. "Babies look healthy. Good. Means you been eatin'." He stepped closer, boots crunching broken sugar packets someone had dropped. "Where's my money?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I told you last week, tips are slow. I got half. I can..." "Half don't cut it." Vance leaned over the counter, knuckles whitening on the formica. "You owe 12 large, sweetheart. Interest compounds daily. You do the math." Jake hadn't moved. He sat 3 stools down, coffee cooling, hat brim low. But his right boot had inched back, heel resting against the stool's metal rung. Better leverage. His left hand stayed on the mug. His right hand stayed out of sight below the counter's edge. Sarah's gaze flicked to Jake, then away, then back again. A silent plea. Jake's eyes stayed on Vance, unblinking. One of the Vipers, skinny, twitchy track marks climbing his forearms, sidled toward the bassinet. "Boss said bring the kids if she don't pay. Insurance, right?" He reached in. A tiny foot kicked the blanket. Sarah lunged. "Don't you touch them!" Vance caught her wrist mid-air, twisting until she gasped. "You lost the right to tell me what to do when you ran off with my product money." He shoved her back against the pie case. Glass rattled. A cherry pie slid sideways, red goo oozing like blood. That's when Jake spoke, voice calm as a Sunday sermon. "Let her go." Every head swiveled. Vance's grin widened. "Well, well, Cowboy wants to play hero." He released Sarah, turned slow. "You know who I am, Hat." Jake took a final sip of coffee, set the mug down with a soft clink. "Don't need to. I know what you are." The diner went graveyard quiet. Outside, thunder rumbled. Close now, the storm Jake had smelled earlier rolling in like cavalry. Wind rattled the windows. The neon open sign flickered, buzzing like a dying insect. Vance's hand dipped toward the pistol grip protruding from his waistband. "This ain't your road, Drifter." Jake stood. 6'3" of quiet violence uncoiling. His jacket fell open just enough to reveal the Colt Python's walnut grip. "Road belongs to whoever's willing to bleed for it." The twitchy Viper made his move, lunged for the bassinet again. Jake's hand blurred. The coffee mug rocketed across the counter, struck the kid square in the temple. Ceramic exploded. The Viper dropped like a sack of feed, blood streaming from his scalp. Chaos detonated. Vance roared, drawn his pistol. Sarah screamed. A Viper flipped a table for cover. The fry cook ducked behind the grill. Jake vaulted the counter in one fluid motion, boots skidding on spilled coffee. He caught Sarah's arm, shoved her and the bassinet toward the kitchen door. "Back exit, go!" But Vance was already moving, pistol up. "Kids are mine." Jake drew the python in a whisper of leather. The revolver's cylinder spun with a metallic snick. He didn't aim. He didn't need to. The barrel kissed the ceiling tile. He pulled the trigger. Boom! The blast was deafening in the enclosed space. Plaster rained. Light fixtures shattered. Every viper flinched, ears ringing. In that half-second of shock, Jake was already moving, grabbing a cast-iron skillet off the grill, swinging it like a mace into the nearest viper's jaw. Bone cracked. The man went down, choking on teeth. Sarah hesitated at the kitchen door, babies clutched to her chest. "What about you?" Jake reloaded one-handed, brass casing tinkling to the floor. "Storm's here, use it." Outside, the sky split open. Rain hammered the tin roof like buckshot. Wind howled through the cracks. Headlights swept the lot as more vipers arrived. Engines snarling, silhouettes backlit by lightning. Vance wiped blood from his lip, laughing now. "You just bought yourself a pine box, cowboy." Jake backed toward the kitchen, python steady. "Pine's fine, just make sure yours is deeper." He kicked the swinging door shut behind him. Pots clattered. Sarah's truck keys jingled in her shaking hand. The back door slammed open to reveal a narrow alley, rain already ankle-deep in mud. But as Jake stepped into the storm, revolver raised, he saw the trap. Vipers fanning out from both ends of the alley, chains glinting, shotguns pumping. Thunder drowned the click of safeties. Jake's eyes flicked to Sarah, to the babies, to the python with 5 rounds left. Lightning flashed, freezing the scene like a photograph. A lone man in a cowboy hat, 2 infants crying against a woman's chest, and a dozen killers closing the noose. The storm had arrived, and the ghost was right in the middle of it. Rain came down in solid sheets, turning the alley into a shallow river of red mud. Lightning strobed, painting everything bone white for split-second snapshots. Jake's silhouette against the kitchen door, python up. Sarah clutching the bassinet to her chest like body armor. 2 vipers at the far end, raising shotguns. The air smelled of wet sagebrush, gun oil, and fear. Jake fired first. The python bucked. Muzzle flash lit the alley like a magnesium flare. The left viper's shotgun spun away. The man dropped, clutching a ruined shoulder. The second viper ducked behind a dumpster, pellets rattling off brick. Jake grabbed Sarah's elbow. "Move!" They splashed through the alley, boots slipping. The bassinet rocked wildly. One baby wailed, the other had gone eerily quiet. Sarah's truck sat 20 yards ahead, half hidden under a sagging carport, keys already in her fist. But between them and the truck, 3 more vipers, chains swinging, closing fast. Jake shoved Sarah behind a stack of crates. "Stay low." He spun, python barking twice. Brass spun through the air, chiming off the pavement. One viper went down clutching his thigh. The other 2 scattered, using the storm's roar for cover. Sarah's voice cracked over the thunder. "They'll kill us for the kids." Jake reloaded on instinct, speed loader flicking empty casings into the mud. "Not while I'm breathing." He stepped into the open, hat plastered to his skull, water streaming off the brim. A viper lunged from the shadows, chain whistling. Jake sidestepped, caught the wrist, twisted. The chain wrapped the man's own arm. Jake drove an elbow into the solar plexus, then a knee to the face. The viper hit the ground face first, out cold. Sarah was already at the truck, yanking the rear door. She slid the bassinet across the bench seat, climbed in after it. "Jake, come on!" But the alley mouth behind them filled with headlights. Vance's voice boomed through a bullhorn. "Last chance, Sarah. Kids for your life. Fun." Jake's truck was gone, left back at the diner lot. Only one play left. He sprinted to Sarah's beat-up Ford, yanked the driver's door. The cab smelled of baby powder and stale cigarettes. Engine coughed, caught. He threw it in reverse, tires spinning mud. Vance's Raptor blocked the alley exit, grill like a snarling mouth. Jake floored it. The Ford fishtailed, rear bumper kissing brick. He cranked the wheel, slid sideways, and punched through a stack of pallets. Wood exploded. The truck shot into the street, headlights cutting twin tunnels through the rain. Sarah twisted in the seat, babies between them. "Where are we going?" "Arizona state line, your sister's place." Jake's knuckles were white on the wheel. Blood from his side soaked his shirt, dark as oil. "Vipers won't cross Sheriff Gutierrez. Not tonight." The truck hit the highway doing 80, wipers slapping uselessly. Behind them, 3 sets of headlights gave chase. The storm swallowed the town lights in the rear view. Silence inside the cab lasted 10 seconds before Sarah spoke, voice small. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know us." Jake's eyes stayed on the road, jaw tight. Lightning flashed, for a second. His face looked ancient, carved from the same rock as the mesas. "I knew a woman once, Carrie, 8 months pregnant when the trailer caught fire." His voice was flat, but the words landed like stones in still water. "Faulty wiring. I was on a run, 3 states away. Got the call at a truck stop in Oklahoma. By the time I rode back," he swallowed. "Ashes, both of them." Sarah's hand found his forearm, slick with rain and blood. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Jake downshifted around a curve, tires howling. "Just means I know what's worth burning the world down for." The baby with the dark hair, Mia, started crying again. Sarah unbuckled, leaned over the seat, and lifted her. The infant's tiny fist closed around Jake's pinky through his glove. He glanced down, startled. The crying softened to hiccups. Sarah watched him, something shifting behind her eyes. "They're not yours to lose, Jake." "No," he said, "but they're mine to protect tonight." Headlights in the mirror grew larger. A rifle cracked, the rear window spider-webbed. Sarah ducked, shielding the babies. Jake swerved, tires kissing the shoulder. "Hold on." He killed the lights, plunged them into darkness. The chasing trucks overshot, brakes locking. Jake cut the wheel hard left, bounced onto a dirt service road hidden by mesquite. The Ford rattled over cattle guards, suspension bottoming out. Dust replaced rain in the headlights when they flicked back on. Sarah rocked both babies now, humming under her breath, an old lullaby her mother used to sing. Jake caught the tune, voice joining hers without thinking, low and rough. "Hush, little baby, don't you cry." The road narrowed, red rock walls closing in. A sign flashed past. "Bridge out, 2 miles." Jake's eyes narrowed. He eased off the gas. Sarah noticed. "We're trapped." "No," he said. "We're splitting up." He skidded to a stop under an overhang of rock. Killed the engine. Rain drummed the roof like impatient fingers. Jake unbuckled, wincing as blood seeped faster. "Take the babies. Strap 'em to me." Sarah stared. "What?" He was already peeling off his leather jacket, then his t-shirt, revealing a torso mapped with old scars and fresh blood. He tore the shirt into strips, fashioning a carrier across his chest. "Bike's faster. I'll draw 'em off. You take the truck the back way, old logging road. Meet at the Desert Rose Motel, mile marker 47, midnight." Sarah's hand shook as she helped buckle the infants against him. Mia's cheek pressed to his heartbeat. Luke's tiny fingers curled into the bullet-casing necklace. The babies were warm, impossibly light. Jake's breath hitched, pain or memory hard to tell. Sarah touched his face, rain dripping from her lashes. "You come back to us, Jake Harlan. That's an order." He managed half a smile. "Ma'am, I don't take orders, but I'll sure try." Engines growled in the distance, closing. Jake swung onto the Yamaha, kickstand up. The babies were secure, blankets tucked tight. Sarah climbed back into the truck, tears mixing with rain. Jake revved the engine, voice barely audible over the storm. "On my life, Sarah." He roared into the darkness, tail light a red comet. Sarah watched until it vanished, then threw the Ford into gear and disappeared the opposite way. 2 roads, 1 ghost, 2 babies riding shotgun against his heart, and 12 miles of hell between them and sunrise. The Yamaha's engine screamed like a banshee on fire, needle buried past 130. Rain lashed sideways, turning the desert into a watercolor of black and silver. Jake rode one-handed, left arm cradling the babies against his chest, right hand locked on the throttle. Every breath tasted of blood and ozone. The carrier held, Mia's cheek against his sternum, Luke's tiny fist tangled in the bullet casing chain. Their warmth was the only thing keeping his heart from flatlining. Headlights behind him. 2 Raptors, then 3. Vance had called in the cavalry. They rode staggered formation, grill guards glinting like teeth. A rifle barrel poked from the lead truck's sunroof. Muzzle flashes stitched the night. Rounds whined past Jake's ear, sparked off the asphalt. He dropped a gear, engine howling, and split the gap between the trucks. The Yamaha clipped a mirror, plastic exploded, and shot ahead. Mile marker 42 blurred past. Desert Rose Motel was 5 miles out. Jake's vision tunneled. Blood loss painted the edges black. He blinked hard, focused on the baby's breathing. In, out, a rhythm to live by. The road narrowed, red rock walls closing in. A sign flashed, bridge ahead, narrow. Jake eased off the gas. The old truss bridge loomed out of the storm, rusted iron skeletons swaying in the wind. Floodwaters roared 30 feet below, whitecaps glowing under lightning. No guardrails, 1 lane. Suicide in the dry season, murder in the wet. The lead Raptor closed to 20 yards. Vance leaned out the passenger window, shotgun raised. Jake saw the flash, felt the impact. Rear tire shredded, the bike fishtailed, rubber flapping. He counter-steered on instinct, kept it upright, but speed bled fast. The bridge was 200 yards away and closing. Jake's mind raced. Bike was done. Bridge was death. Babies were everything. He spotted the service ramp on the right, an old maintenance track that dropped under the bridge. Steep, washed out, half gravel, half prayer. He had 1 shot. He braked hard, rear wheel locking. The bike slid sideways, gravel spraying. The Raptors overshot, brakes howling. Jake cranked the bars, dove onto the ramp. The Yamaha bounced, suspension bottoming. A rock clipped the oil pan. Sparks showered. The engine coughed but held. Under the bridge, the world turned to thunder and shadow. Water roared overhead, dripping. Through rusted gaps, Jake killed the headlight. Rode by feel, the ramp spit him out on the far bank, hidden by cottonwoods. He skidded to a stop, killed the engine. Silence rushed in, broken only by the baby's soft hiccups. Headlights swept the bridge above. Vance's voice echoed through a bullhorn. "I know you're down there, cowboy. Game's over." Jake eased off the bike, legs trembling. Blood soaked his jeans now, warm and sticky. He unstrapped the carrier, laid the babies gently in a dry hollow under the roots of a fallen tree, blankets tucked tight. "Stay quiet, little ones. Daddy's got work." He drew the python, 3 rounds left. Checked the spare speed loader in his pocket. Empty. 3 bullets, 2 trucks, 6 men. Math never lied. Boots crunched gravel above. Flashlights stabbed down through the bridge slats. Jake melted into the shadows. Became the ghost they named him for. First Viper came down the ramp slow, shotgun sweeping. Jake waited behind a support beam. The man passed within arm's reach. Jake's hand clamped over mouth and nose, python barrel pressed to temple. "Drop it," he whispered. The shotgun clattered. Jake eased the man down unconscious, zip-tied with his own belt. Second Viper followed faster, cursing. Jake stepped out, fired once. The round took the man's center mass. He folded without a sound. 2 left. Vance's voice again, closer now. "Spread out. He's hurt. Can't run far." Jake moved upstream, barefoot to avoid noise, boots tucked under his arm. The riverbank was slick mud. He found what he needed, a rusted chain coiled around a boulder, left from some long-ago repair crew. He looped it silent, anchored one end to the bike's frame, the other to a root. Then he waited. The third Viper appeared, silhouette against the storm. Jake rose like a phantom, chain whipping. It caught the man's ankles, yanked hard. The Viper pitched forward, face planting in mud. Jake was on him instantly, forearm across the throat until the fight went out. 1 left. Vance. Jake retrieved the fallen shotgun. 2 shells. He pumped it once, the sound echoing like judgment. Then he stepped into the open, moonlight cutting through a break in the clouds. "Vance," his voice carried over the roar of water. "Just you and me now." The Raptor's door creaked open atop the bridge. Vance stepped out, shotgun dangling loose, gold tooth glinting. "You're bleeding out, Harlan. Give me the kids. Walk away." Jake's laugh was dry as bone. "You first." Vance raised the shotgun. Jake dove left as the blast shredded cottonwood bark where he'd stood. He rolled, came up firing, the python's last round punching through Vance's shoulder. The gang leader spun, dropped his weapon, roared in pain. Jake was already moving, shotgun up. He reached the bridge ladder, climbed one-handed, blood slick on the rungs. Vance scrambled back toward the truck, leaving a red trail. Jake crested the bridge deck, racked the shotgun, one shell left. Vance reached the Raptor, yanked a pistol from the seat. "You think this ends with me? Vipers own the desert." Jake's voice was calm, almost gentle. "Desert don't belong to anyone, just borrows us for a while." He pulled the trigger. The shotgun's roar swallowed Vance's scream. The gang leader flew backward, slammed into the grill, slid down, leaving a red smear. The pistol clattered away. Silence. Jake dropped the empty shotgun, staggered to the truck. Keys still in the ignition. He hotwired it in 10 seconds, old habit from a misspent youth. Then he coasted down the ramp, gentle, parked beside the bike. The babies were exactly where he'd left them, eyes wide, tiny chests rising and falling. He lifted them carefully, strapped them back to his chest. The carrier was soaked in blood now. His, theirs, didn't matter. They were warm. They were alive. He climbed into the Raptor, fired it up. The dashboard clock read 11:47, 13 minutes to the motel. But as he shifted into gear, headlights appeared on the far horizon. Not Vipers. A single vehicle, high beam steady. Sarah's truck. She'd come back. Jake's hand tightened on the wheel. Relief warred with dread. If she was here, the split had failed. Or worse, betrayal. The truck rolled closer, slowed, stopped 20 yards away. Sarah stepped out, raincoat flapping, face pale in the headlights. She raised both hands, empty. "Jake," her voice cracked, "it's me. I couldn't leave you." He studied her through the windshield, python empty but still in his lap. The babies stirred against him. Sarah took one step, then another. "I circled back when I heard the shots. Figured you'd need the truck, or a ride to a hospital." Jake's eyes flicked to the rear view. Nothing behind her. No ambush. Just a woman soaked to the bone, standing in the storm for him. He exhaled, a sound like surrender. "Get in. We're almost home." She climbed into the passenger seat, reached across, touched the babies' heads. "You kept your promise." Jake shifted into drive, the Raptor lurching forward. "Not done yet." Mile marker 47 glowed ahead. The Desert Rose Motel's neon rose flickered once, twice, then held steady, pink light in a black and silver world. But as they rolled into the lot, Jake's gut twisted. A third vehicle sat under the carport, a sheriff's cruiser, lights off, engine cold. Someone else had been waiting, and the night wasn't finished with its twists. The Raptor rolled to a stop in the Desert Rose Motel lot. Tires hissing through puddles that reflected the flickering neon like spilled blood. The storm had eased to a steady whisper of rain, the kind that soaks through bone instead of skin. Jake killed the engine. For 3 heartbeats, the only sounds were the tick of cooling metal, the soft patter on the roof, and the baby's gentle breathing against his chest. Sarah's hand hovered over the door handle. "Sheriff's cruiser," she whispered. "You think Vance called it in?" Jake's eyes, half-lidded, glassy with blood loss, scanned the lot. One cruiser, driver's door ajar, dome light off. No movement, no backup lights on the highway. The office window glowed faintly. The vacancy sign buzzed like a trapped fly. "Gutierrez don't run with Vipers," he said, voice thin but steady. "But somebody's here." He eased the python from his lap. Empty, but the weight felt right, and tucked it into his waistband. Then he unbuckled the babies, carrier and all, and passed the bundle to Sarah. "Stay low. If I wave you in, come running. If I don't..." He met her eyes. "Drive east till the tank's dry. Don't look back." Sarah's fingers brushed his as she took the infants. "You're barely standing, Jake." "Been worse," He forced half a grin. Ghosts don't fall easy. He stepped out into the rain. The cold hit his wounds like salt, but it sharpened the edges of the world. Blood had crusted down his side, mixing with mud and gunpowder. He left red footprints on the concrete as he crossed to the cruiser. The driver's seat was empty, keys in the ignition. A half-eaten burrito sat on the dash, still steaming. Jake's hand found the radio, dead air. He popped the trunk release, circled to the back. Inside, standard gear, shotgun rack, empty, first aid duffel, flare gun, and a manila folder with a Polaroid clipped to it. Sarah, the babies, the diner. Red marker scrawled across the bottom. Asset located, 2341. Jake's stomach turned to ice. Not vipers, feds, or worse, someone playing both sides. A shadow detached from the motel office door. Sheriff Maria Gutierrez stepped into the neon glow, Stetson low, hands empty but close to her sidearm. Rain beaded on her badge. Evening, Harlan? Jake didn't reach for the empty python. Sheriff. She nodded toward the Raptor. Heard you had a busy night. Could say that. Gutierrez's eyes flicked to the blood trail, then to the truck where Sarah waited, barely visible. Woman and 2 infants. Sound familiar? Jake's voice stayed flat. Sounds like a family needing a safe place. The sheriff pulled a pack of smokes from her pocket, tapped one out, but didn't light it. Got a call from DEA an hour ago. Said a ghost on a black Yamaha was running product for the Vipers. 2 dead, 3 critical. Bridge looks like a war zone. She let that hang. Then I find Vance's Raptor in my county with your boot prints all over it. Jake leaned against the cruiser, casual, but his knees threatened to fold. Vance won't be filing complaints. No, Gutierrez said softly. He won't. She studied him a long moment. You know what I think, Harlan? I think you're the kind of trouble that leaves bodies and stories, and I think Sarah Thompson's been running from worse trouble than you. She reached into her coat, slow. Jake tensed. She pulled out a small evidence bag. Inside, a silver star badge, old, tarnished. Found this in Vance's pocket. Belonged to a Texas Ranger. Name on the back. J. Harlan. Ring any bells? Jake's breath caught. The badge from his father's coffin, stolen the night Carrie burned. He stared at it, like it might bite. Gutierrez tossed it underhand. He caught it one-handed. Vance kept trophies, she said. Guess he thought it made him big. I think it makes him dead. Jake turned the badge over. J. Harlan, 1987. The year his dad took a bullet in Juarez. The year Jake learned the road was safer than home. The sheriff sighed. Look, I'm short-staffed and long on paperwork. Way I see it, a ghost did my county a favor tonight. Ghost wants to keep riding, I didn't see a thing. She stepped aside, clearing the path to the motel office. Room 12's got clean sheets and a hot shower. Doc Ramirez owes me. He'll stitch you up, no questions. After that, she shrugged. Highway's still open. Jake pocketed the badge. And Sarah? Her sister's in Tucson. I'll radio ahead, safe passage, but she leaves at dawn. You too. Gutierrez's eyes softened a fraction. Some ghosts need to keep moving, Harlan. Others, maybe find a reason to stop. He looked back at the Raptor. Sarah had cracked the window. Mia's tiny hand waved through the gap like a white flag. Luke's soft coo carried on the wet air. Jake tipped his hat, barely. Obliged, Sheriff. Gutierrez climbed into the cruiser, fired it up. 1 hour, Ghost, then the desert forgets you were ever here. She pulled away, taillights disappearing into the mist. Jake walked back to the truck. Sarah met him halfway, babies cradled against her. What happens now? He opened the motel room door, number 12, like promised. Clean, quiet, the faint scent of bleach and pine. A single lamp glowed on the nightstand. He eased onto the bed, wincing as Sarah helped peel off the ruined carrier. The babies stirred, blinked up at him with storm-colored eyes. Sarah fetched the first aid kit from the bathroom, hands steady now. She cleaned the wound with whiskey from the minibar. Jake didn't flinch. Thread and needle followed. Each stitch was a silent conversation. When she finished, she sat beside him. The babies slept between them, tiny chests rising and falling in perfect sync. Jake's voice was barely a whisper. Road's always there tomorrow. Sarah rested her head on his good shoulder. Maybe tomorrow can wait till morning. Outside, the neon rose sign finally steadied, bathing the room in soft pink light. The storm had passed. Stars peeked through ragged clouds. Somewhere down the highway, alone, Harley rumbled, another ghost chasing dawn. But in room 12, Jake Harlan closed his eyes for the first time in years without checking the locks. The bullet casing necklace lay on the nightstand beside his father's badge. 2 infants breathed warm against his chest, and for one quiet hour, the ghost wasn't riding. He was home. Fade on the sound of gentle rain and the distant, hopeful growl of an engine that would carry them all into a new day. If this story hit you in the chest like a desert thunderclap, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and ride with us next time. Because the highway's long, and the ghosts, they're just getting started.